AITA for celebrating the birth of my son in front of my sister? I am 28, and my long-term GF, 27, just had a beautiful boy and we couldn't be more ecstatic. The whole family is overjoyed except my sister. For context, my sister, F37, had been trying to conceive with her ex-husband for about 6 years and unfortunately they didn't have any results, which caused their divorce. This has of course devastated her, as she's been really keen on having children for the past decade, give or take. After the divorce, they sold the house and she ended up moving back in with our parents since they have plenty of room. Back to 2 days ago, Hannah gives birth to our son, and we'd agreed with my parents we would stay over at theirs for a few weeks so my mom could help with the baby whenever we needed. Once we got home from the hospital, everyone was so happy we were showing everyone our son. Saw my dad and we just started hugging and jumping around the place while trying not to wake up the baby. My dad was like, "You did it," and I'd reply, "And you're a granddad," both smiling ear to ear, just being absolutely goofy. We then went over to look at the baby and in the process I hugged my sister, who was standing there seemingly kind of spaced out. She immediately starts crying. I try to comfort her but the mood in the whole room has shifted and she just runs off up the stairs. Now we're left there standing. My mom gives me the eyes and says me and dad shouldn't have celebrated like that in front of her. I told her she should be able to deal with it. She knew we were coming. I went upstairs but she didn't want to talk. So AITA here? Peas. If anyone has advice for moving forward, that's also appreciated. Your post has been removed. Hashtag do not repost this without contacting the mods. https://www.reddit.com/message/compose/question mark 2 /r/amethyshole for approval, including edited versions. Reposting without explicit approval. https://www.reddit.com/r/amethyshole/wiki_can_I_removed.3f will result in a ban. This post violates Rule 7. There is no interpersonal conflict here for our community to make a judgment about. Rule 7 FAQs. https://www.reddit.com/r/amethyshole/ Wiki FAQ #wiki_rule_7.3a_post_interpersonal_conflicts. Subreddit rules. https://www.reddit.com/r/amethyshole/about/rules/closing ### Please ensure you have reviewed this message in full. We will not respond to PMs to individual mods. Message the mods. https://www.reddit.com/message/compose/question mark 2 /r/amethyshole with any questions. ### Please visit r find a Reddit to see if there's a more appropriate sub for your post. ###. Nah. Although what your sister went through is sad and I'm sure difficult for somebody, you're *** allowed to be happy. You just had a major life-changing event happening. You're a dad. Personally, I don't want kids. But hey, I'd say that's something worth celebrating. Your sister's feelings are still valid, don't get me wrong. But so are yours, man. NTA rather than nah implies the sister did something wrong. All she did was cry and leave. Nah. Sister is entitled to her feelings. As longer as she does not act on them with the purposed aim to ruin the celebration, she isn't ta, and neither is op. I think the mom's a bit of an ass for telling op not to celebrate, like that, when all he was doing was showing that he was happy. I agree. It's absolutely fine and normal for op to be excited about becoming a father and for his father to celebrate this with him. This is a moment neither of them is likely to ever forget. It's also absolutely fine and normal for Op's sister to see all of this and get upset at seeing her brother get what she dreamed of for so long and lost her marriage over. And she was the one that invited them to stay. So do I get how sister is feeling, but to stomp on OP's joy because of that? Not okay. As a parent, I imagine it'd be extremely difficult to be in that situation. But mom shouldn't be making others feel uncomfortable or less happy about their accomplishments because she is upset. Sister can be upset all she needs to be, but Op is allowed to celebrate the birth of his child too. Sis didn't stomp anyone's celebration, mom did. Sis went to cry alone in her room. My heart goes out to sis. I feel her pain loudly crying. I meant the mom face with peeking eye face with peeking eye face with peeking eye. That was not clear in my comment though, lol. Doesn't need to be the sister. The mother was coming in as the fun police and telling them not to be happy. Considering Chewie didn't mention the mother and only talked about the sister's feelings and Ops, it absolutely does need to be the sister in the context of talking about that comment. What are you talking about? The last paragraph says, my mom gives me the eyes and says me and my dad shouldn't have celebrated like that in front of her. That sounds like mentioning the mother to me. Edit. I see what you were saying, didn't read it well the first time. Agreed, that's what he was talking about. I was more saying I don't think nah here would not be the appropriate judgment. What are you talking about? Chewie is the commenter, not Op. We are talking about the comment. Not the original post. My comment was a reply, not a top-level context. It has context. And in that context it does have to be the sister. The sister did nothing wrong, nah. My comment was more general, but I can see why that ruffled feathers. My bad. No, the mom is the a-hole. Wonderful. The comment I replied to only talked about the feelings of the sister and Op. So saying NTA while only talking about those people means they are saying the sister is the asshole. Note even Chewie got that and changed the comment. And I didn't disagree with you. You sentence starts with, no. Your comment is a disagreement. What is the differenta between it? Not the asshole or not the asshole is how read it. I am wrong. It does mean not the asshole. And that means the other person is. It's on the sidebar. YTA equals you're the asshole. YWBTA equals you would be the asshole. NTA equals not the asshole, and the other person is. YWNBTA equals you would not be the asshole, and the other person would. ESH equals everyone sucks here. Nah equals no assholes here. Info equals not enough info. Info equals information needed for opinion? Thinking face. Info equals I need food occasionally. NAH is no assholes here. NTA equals not the asshole. Nah equals no assholes here, nobody is in the wrong. She's 37 years old. She needs to go to therapy. It's absolutely FC cat up of her to shit on her brother's happiness over having a child just because she never had one. Is her behavior understandable? Yes. Is it acceptable? No. She didn't shit on anything. WTF are you talking about? All she did was cry and leave. Is it acceptable? Yes. She had 9 months to prepare to not cry at the sight of her brother's child. Makes it seem like she did it on purpose for attention. She's an AH. That's not something you can prepare for. Are you even human? She kind of did do something wrong though. Like, she's entitled to her feelings, but letting them out in that moment and robbing Op and his dad some of the joy from that moment is a shitty thing to do. She could have just excused herself and went and had a little cry privately. She needs to get past it eventually. People have children all the time, just not her. I would agree with you in most cases, but in the moment emotions can be unpredictable. She may have thought she would be okay, and possibly was even excited for them to meet her nephew, but in that moment when she confronted issue directly, her grief and pain probably slapped her right in the face. She didn't lash out, she acted like someone hit with an overwhelming emotions that they couldn't process. 100%. Emotions are unpredictable, not to mention her ability to cope, e.g. put on a fake smile versus stand there frozen versus lash out, would depend on her mental state on that day as well. Perhaps the phrase, "you did it," served as a harsh reminder that Op achieved what she had so desperately wanted to do for 6 years. Have a baby. She couldn't make her parents grandparents, and in the process it tore apart her marriage. Maybe she hoped she would be able to handle it better, but in the moment it brought up a lot of painful memories and she had to leave the room. Neither is in the wrong. Nah. Get past it sounds harsh, emo, but she does need to learn to cope with it. She needs to find an expert to help her learn better coping techniques, for her mental health in general. Note on get over it sounding harsh. When my daughter moved out of state for college, I was devastated. At one point, my mom asked me how long it would be until I got over it. It wasn't like she had died. Only it kind of was, she no longer needed me and was growing into a new person. I was overjoyed that she was doing what kids are supposed to do, but I missed the daughter that moved away and was never going to return. Grief is weird. There is no timeline and it isn't a straight line to the end. You bounce back and forth between the known stages. Acceptance can be there and you still have days of disbelief it has happened. I would guess the Sil is grieving for the children she isn't going to have. Her nephew's birth has opened that pain again. Nah, but there are some conversations that need to happen. Perhaps Op telling her that he understands that this may be hard for her, but he hopes she can still be happy for him. He isn't trying to flaunt the baby, they are just overjoyed that he is here. Mom needs to STFU and keep her comments to herself. She isn't helping anyone. I agree in principle, but I know that I can't always control when I cry. I'd like to think I'd just slip away quietly, then return when I could put my brave face back on and try to be happy for Op. Jealousy over something like this a bitch, especially when you factor in her marriage crumbling and her having to move back in with her folks. I don't even want marriage and kids, but I do sometimes, silently, envy my friends' happy marriages and cozy family life. And remind myself that no matter how happy people look most of the time, we all have pangs of envy for what we don't have at some time or another. OP, and Op's father, are definitely not assholes for being joyful and celebrating. I'd opt for nah. Sister can't help her feelings. I hope she'll be happier for Op in the weeks and months and years to come though. I don't even think the mom is TA. I imagine it's heartbreaking to see your child in that kind of pain and she's just trying to help, even if she is, in my unqualified opinion, handling it wrong. It doesn't mean she's playing favorites. She's just upset 'cause one of her kids is upset. Are you a robot? How the hell do you control when you start to cry and always make sure you've left the room first? It doesn't always have a warning or a build-up. She did go to cry privately. She left. And why do you say it like that? A little cry? Why should it be little? Yeah, she needs to get past it eventually. Maybe not when it's so recent. She's still living with her parents where she had to go as a direct result of the aftermath, making it very clear this is a very recent thing. And maybe the parents should have went to stay at Op's house instead of bringing a baby to live with her given that situation. So no. She didn't do anything wrong. At all. I honestly feel like 99% of these situations necessitate the person who is allowed to be happy to just take the sad person in their arms and hold them while they cry, or at least metaphorically. Clearly, Op is NTA, but in terms of being intuitive, it seems so damn obvious that someone in OP's sister's position will benefit massively from Op and his family to do everything they can to reassure her that they 100% understand the pain this must cause her and she is not wrong or bad to be sad, as long as it doesn't get mean or affect other PPL. However, that would all apply if her brother was simply having a kid. The fact that he not only having a kid but going to live with his family and the place that his sister already lives at? Jesus man, I would be like cooking my sister 3 meals a day, making sure she was okay, doing everything possible to not trigger her more than what the situation already will do. If OP's sister was not further devastated by her brother having a kid while she could not and having to live with that kid, I would be shocked. Obviously, that does not mean OP should walk on eggshells and clearly not avoid having kids law. Just saying that her position means he, his GF, their family, should navigate the situation with the sister in mind. Greater than I told her she should be able to deal with it. She knew we were coming. I went upstairs but she didn't want to talk. You know, you being there the baby would exacerbate her feelings, right? You warning her does Lee. TTLE to no help unless your warning is, I expect this to cause you pain PLS let me help in any way I can. I say YTA for telling someone else they should be over their grief before they feel they are ready but everything else nah. I'd sorry, but this family shouldn't stop a moment of happiness to care to the sister. Sister is trying to have a baby for almost a decade. She needs to go to therapy to accept the fact that she probably won't have a bio child and move on. OP has a right to have family helping him and gushing over the new family member. It's his and his family moment and it's not about the sister. His focus should be on his wife and child and not on someone who needs a help he isn't qualified to give. 100% agree. Nah. Of course you were excited over the birth of your son and your dad is excited to be a grandpa. Exuberance over such a happy occasion is to be expected. I also understand your sister's pain. She lost a marriage and had to move back home due to infertility. I would suggest a long talk with her, tell her how you feel and how much you look forward to her being the best auntie in the world and ask what you can do to help her. She may want to distance herself, and try to be understanding of that too. I think OP's mum is kinda ta for saying that OP shouldn't have been excited about his baby in front of his sister. I think OP's mom is kind of ta for inviting them to stay there with sister. Why didn't mom just go stay at OP's house? This is obviously a very sore spot for sister and mom obviously knows that and cares. Yeah, that does seem to be a terrible decision, woman facepalming. It's one thing seeing a baby occasionally, but to be in the same house as well as seeing a couple blissing out over their baby would be so hard. Equally, to be told not to celebrate your baby is ridiculous as well. Mom probably wasn't thinking past getting the new baby in the house until she saw how it affected sister. Then mom is at the very least deeply stupid. Especially since she invited them into their home where the sister is currently staying as well. It's due to mom that sister can't even escape seeing the baby, even if she wanted to. Agreed, nobody did anything wrong. Mom's comment was misguided. The mother didn't say it in front of the sister. She said it when the sister went upstairs. My opinion has nothing to do with the sister. The mother invited OP and their newborn to her home where she knew her sister was living, then told OP that he shouldn't be excited with his dad about his newborn. That makes the mum talk. I would not put that expectation on the sister right now. I would say, we would love your involvement but we understand if you are not up to it. You decide and we will support you. Nah, as long as now *OP tones it down. The excited jumping around and, you did it, and, you're a grandpa, would be inappropriate to continue. And I don't blame sister in any way for being upset. Hearing, you're a grandpa, when I hadn't been able to make him a grandpa for 6 years would have stung so badly. I honestly think the only thing in all this is that no one thought that sister might struggle with having this newborn in the house for a few weeks. Mom should have gone to stay with OP and partner, not have them come stay at the parents'. I agree with the end of this. It also isn't great for the new family to get settled in someone else's house, then have to move after. Mom 100% should have moved into the baby's house instead of making that poor woman have to live with a newborn for weeks while she's grieving her marriage and infertility. Surely the sister was consulted, otherwise that would be ridiculous. Maybe she said yes to be polite but didn't realize how bad it would be until it was a reality. I disagree though. I don't think OP should tone anything down and has a right to be happy as it's a life-changing moment for him. However, they should move out and be happy in their own house. Greater than nah as long as now * op tones it down. The excited jumping around and, you did it, and, you're a grandpa, would be inappropriate to continue. No, it wouldn't. Why should they dampen their joy because of the sister? This is a happy moment and they should be allowed to experience it fully. Sister is gonna have to get over it. 100% agree. Why should someone have to tone down their happiness to get on the same level as someone's disappointment? Twisted if you ask me. Agree with this up arrow. Absolutely, this index pointing up. I'm going to say nah because your sister got emotional and left the room. She didn't yell at you or tell you you're not allowed to act happy. Personally, I would be mindful of her feelings and perhaps not jump around the place when you're in her presence, but you are certainly allowed to show your emotions. Yeah, not everyone who has an emotional breakdown is good at hiding it and leaving the room without anyone noticing. It doesn't mean they want to be noticed. Mom is in the wrong for blaming op. Greater than my dad was like, you did it, and I'd reply, and you're a granddad. Maybe she thought this was a little excessive though, as someone who gave birth herself presumably lol. I thought OP's mom gave the eye because the comments had to sting for the sister. It was spontaneous. I'm not calling op an AH for it. Op and his dad should look at it as she didn't do it, and wasn't able to make his dad a grandpa. If I were op, I would let her know that he can see how it affects her, how he empathizes with her pain, and his son will need his aunt. This right here. Infertility is complex and painful. It comes with not only emotional damage but this feeling that you're a failure because your body can't seem to do what so many other bodies seem perfectly capable of doing. Plus, your sister's marriage fell apart in part because of that infertility. Though, I might say that a marriage that can fall apart because of this may have not been so great to begin with. Divorce and infertility are both very, very difficult things to deal with on the our own. And your sister is dealing with them at the same time. While you are NTA, I'd suggest being at least a bit mindful of your sister. Give her space. And don't be offended by her reactions. Yes, this. One of the things about infertility is that it completely changes the life you had planned for yourself. Some people are lucky and get the family they wanted. Others do not. I'd have agreed with you until op said sister should be able to deal with it. That's when he became ta. Yes, I see that was very insensitive now that you pointed it out. I gave him a bit of a pass for the jumping around in front of his sister. But on second thought, that, along with that comment, leads me to think he's possibly just being insensitive to her in general. In other words, him jumping for joy in front of his sister was not just sporadic, but perhaps he knew it would upset her and he didn't care. Any thoughts on this, op? I can only speculate. Yeah, that sounded like op thinks you just got over it. You don't. Having a child die. Being infertile, miscarriages etc., they aren't something you get over and are never going to get upset about. You learn to live, yes, but it isn't something you magically get happy and fine about. You think she shouldn't have to? What do you propose, that everyone in her radius stops reproducing until further notice? The point of the comment was that sister can't be okay with it right now. She's grieving big time. Poor girl probably wants to die. Her whole life plan fell apart. Some people need time to regroup, and empathy. Mom was inconsiderate AF. Mom shouldn't have invited them to stay. She should have gone to stay at op's house. What new mom wants to recover anywhere other than home anyway? Weird. You weren't an asshole until. Greater than I told her she should be able to deal with it. That's the kind of shitty thing people say when they're too lazy, stubborn to care about other people's feelings. Why didn't anyone in the family ask your sister if she was okay living with a newborn for a few weeks? Seems like she had every right to be upset. No one has thought how hard it is for her at the moment. This was my thought too. Kinda surprised mom didn't go to them to help with the baby, but I also don't know their living situation. Yeah, I thought that was weird as well. Skeptical smiley face. Being a guest in someone else's home and being away from your own home routine and comforts when you've just had a baby does not seem fun. This. The sister can't remove herself from the situation when she is living there. Plus, what postpartum mother wants to be staying at someone else's house? Help or no help? Time to pack up and go home. Give you sister some space. Your mom can come visit you if you need help. Maybe his dad and the granddad of the child wasn't to help too. Maybe OP's home is small for so many people. There's a bunch of explanations for the mom invite OP to her house. His parents helped and focused on the sister for a long time. OP is entitled to this too. No. Clearly they need the help and their parents offered. OP's sister is a grown adult who needs to work through her feelings. Having them leave in time of need would be selfish, just as selfish as to expect her to leave because she can't deal with it. You don't know OP's living situation. They could very well be moving in for the short time because of the distance between the two houses. OP's sister needs counseling. She's had time and space. Exactly. Maybe sister could stay at OP's place for a while. She was probably okay. She had a few months to express any resentment or pain from the situation, and she didn't, likely because she thought she was sufficiently over. It was the celebration what triggered her. When she realized how her parents were so happy of being grandparents. When she realized she wasn't the cause of joy and her own disappointment kicked in. Yeah, the comment of, "You did it," I think set her off. Especially if OP is the male partner. He didn't really do anything then. He prepared for the baby, but sister has achieved the same thing as him then. Granddad is acting like it's a huge accomplishment, but didn't give sister the same credit even though they have done the same work. I don't think having offspring is an activity where participation trophies make sense. Look, you're allowed to be happy, but mate greater than, "You did it," and id reply, "And you're a granddad." Just imagine how much it hurts to hear, "You're a granddad," when you've been wanting to say that for a decade. You can be happy, celebrate, and still keep in mind that someone's life recently blew up. YWBTA if you don't find a way to apologize and recognize how much that must have hurt. Why didn't your mom just come stay with y'all? Did you not think that would be a little insensitive to your sister? And likely more comfortable for the woman who just gave birth. I'm wondering if there was no space for grandma to stay at their place. Or distance. 'Tis a mystery. We live in a rural area and the hospital is about 20 minutes from my parents, whereas we live 3 hours away, just a precaution for a few days, weeks. We talked to sis and she said she would be okay a few days prior, but I think the emotions got the better of her. A few days prior. That sounds like everyone already decided what was happening. She probably felt like she had no choice but to be okay with it at that point. I do kinda think that is Tom move though, although I am sure it wasn't intentional. That's not enough time to give her to think about it or to mentally prepare for it happening. Nah, and while I think it's fair for you to be happy, it's also fair for her to be sad. She can't help how she feels. Watching you live out her dream has to be super painful, and you can't expect her to be a robot and turn those feelings off. I'm sure she is happy for you, but her sadness is outweighing that right now. You need to give her time and space. And while it may be upsetting, accept she might not want to interact with the baby right now, and remember that it isn't personal to you or your family, it's just a reminder of what she doesn't have. I'm stuck on the fact that you are staying with your parents for a few weeks. As others brought up, did anyone ask your sister about this? Did any of you even think about your sister when this plan was created? Yes, she needs to be able to handle the fact that people in her life will be having kids. Yes, you should be able to celebrate. But she basically has nowhere to go to escape all of this. Having gone through infertility issues for 5 years myself, there were times that I needed to just be alone and away from everything, baby. Your sister has to now live with it 24/7 for a few weeks. You all should be at your own home, and your mom should come stay with you if you really need that much help. I was going with NTA until almost the end of the story, but I do feel like there was a poor choice of words here. I think there is nothing wrong with celebrating your newborn. you have every reason to be ecstatic and goofy. Congrats on your baby, BTW smiley face. But I felt like the insensitive line was a little crossed with phrases like, you did it. It kinda feels like having a kid is an achievement at which you can succeed or fail, and it's not like that at all. And that being immediately faux. Load by, you're a granddad, which in the context can feel like you finally were able to provide something your sister was unable to after 10-ish years trying. I'm not saying this is what you meant, but that I can easily see her understanding exactly this, especially if she was already having complicated feelings. So I'm kinda going with nah or very soft In the end, I kinda feel like it would be nice if, when you have the time and mental space, you go talk to your sister, acknowledge what she's gone through and make it clear you never meant to hurt her and that your kid is lucky of having her as an aunt. I'm sure it would mean the world to her. The "you did it" comment is really what bugs me in this story. There are so many other ways to congratulate someone on having baby. This just reads like it's almost a dig at the sister who did not have a baby. Obviously having a baby should be celebrated, but the wording was definitely hurtful. I also side-eyed this comment. I know I'm petty, but it was the girlfriend who did it, as she was the one who gave birth. I thought the exact same thing. Dude, the girlfriend just went through hell. She did it, not op lol. No one was thinking about the sister in that exact moment, and they shouldn't have had to. It wasn't about her, and her hearing implications based on her own insecurities is, indeed, her problem. Strong agree. The wording isn't tactful. The op should be joyous about the occasion, but those words must have been like rubbing salt in a wound for the sister. The wording is awful all around. Not only to the sister, but also the person who gave birth. Yeah. My husband was more. He's here. They made it and they're both okay, and, look at her, she's perfect. No mention at all of his own contribution to the process, no implications that he did something right. I'm sure op helped as much as possible with the pregnancy and delivery, but honestly his big contribution was approximately 9 months in the past. If there was a time for, you did it, it would have been after she took the pregnancy test. He sounds like a good guy. Congrats on healthy baby. Why would you stay with them if your sister who literally got divorced due to infertility and is clearly still dealing with that as their LMFAO? This was guaranteed to happen. Why didn't your mum move into your house? That's the norm when parents help out. I think your family have been unkind to your sister. Nah. The narrowest of ESHs, instead of NAH, and honestly, I'm not sure your sister should be included. This entire sequence of events was entirely predictable from the second you decided to stay with your parents after giving birth. Like, huge, neon signs, with arrows and sparklers, sort of predictable and obvious. It's pretty much the meanest thing you could have done to your sister, and it's clear that not one of you spent even one thought about her existence, or you would have known that in advance. If your mother for some reason couldn't stay with you, then you and your GF should have just coped at home on your own, like many other new parents have to. Still, you're allowed to celebrate the birth of a new child, and your mother is out of line for setting up this situation and then reproving you and your father for it. Your sister is allowed to be upset as long as she doesn't now go around starting up shit instead of grieving quietly, which is what it sounds like she's doing. She no. T required to talk to you about it. As for moving forward, move back home tomorrow. It's about your only option, barring your sister leaving until you do, or just awkwardly avoiding the emotional bombs that are about to go off at irregular intervals until then. NAH, from your story it sounds like you and your dad celebrating was a spontaneous display of joy that can't be controlled. It also sounds like your sister getting upset was a spontaneous display of sorrow that she also couldn't control. She didn't say anything mean to you or tell you to stop celebrating, she removed herself from the situation. I will say you seemingly not understanding how this could possibly be upsetting to her shows a lack of empathy, and I would suggest going forward trying to be a bit more respectful of her feelings. It sounds like she is going through some real shit. Advice for moving forward? Go back home. If you need help, ask if one of your parents will stay with you for a little while. You're entitled to be happy and celebrate, but you're incredibly obtuse or insensitive if you couldn't predict this might be hard on your sister. And saying she should have been able to deal with it ratchets that up even more. YTA. I don't understand all those people saying it's perfectly fine to jump up and down celebrating the baby's arrival to the house in front of the sister who lost a marriage, a house of her own, over her inability to conceive a child. It seems empathy is not an appreciated human quality anymore. No one is asking you to pretend to be sad about having a firstborn, but you did it and a chest bump is a bit over the top. Toning down the display of happiness takes nothing away from how you feel out your child. Of course, your sister is an adult who is responsible for her own emotional regulation, but still showing sensitivity and compassion towards the less fortunate is how kind people choose to act. My thoughts too. I've never seen anyone jump up and down with excitement like that. Seems a little odd. You did it is such a weird-ass thing to say to the father of the baby too. You jizzed in this woman 9 months ago. Congrats. Wow, huge contribution. Meanwhile, the mother grew this human life, birthed it, and is more than likely keeping it alive by feeding it from her own body every hour 24/7. I told her she should be able to deal with it. I guess I wouldn't have celebrated in front of her, out of empathy. I would not want my joy to remind others of their own sorrow, failure to launch a baby into grandma's arms. And if I upset them, I would just apologize. Do you feel bad for her? What did you do specifically? You had sex, you are not infertile, your wife is not infertile, and she gestated and birthed a baby. You did not do the hard work. I'm not clear what your dad was saying you did. Gave him a grandchild is what I think he's saying. Carrying on his genetics? That is what is bothering me. Right in front of your sister, who is unable to conceive. Very insensitive of your dad. But for you and your sister, nah. I don't feel this an situation because of how sensitive the whole topic is in general. I do think it was an absolute terrible idea for y'all to be staying at your parents' when you know your sister is struggling and you can't really avoid a baby when you live with them. Soft because of what you and your father said. She is a woman who has recently lost her marriage and has her dreams broken by infertility. You and your father have not helped her feelings, almost rubbing it in her face that she will never achieve what you have achieved. I think that going to your parents' house knowing that she is there has not been the best idea. I don't know how things are in your country, but normally the parents go to the couple's house to help them. Not the other way. She needs therapy, space and empathy. I hope you don't pressure her and above all don't make her feel bad for not being able to move forward at the moment. That will only distance her from you and cause resentment. I'm jaded now by these posts. Can't tell what's a real post and what is fake. YTA. But not for celebrating the birth of your child or for having a goofy bonding moment with your dad. You had a baby, you should be fucking stoked. But your sister has struggled with infertility for years, lost her marriage due to it, and you saying she should just deal with it is insensitive and cruel. I bet your sister is happy for you, but this also very painful for her. And she has the same right to be in pain and express that pain just as you have the right to be happy and express it. I get that you're excited and happy to be a dad. Maybe your parents could have stayed at yours instead of you staying at theirs? It's called empathy. Your sister not having been able to have a child and it literally causing her divorce is apparently recent stuff. She's grieving the loss of her marriage and trying to come to terms with the fact that she might never be a mom. That is hard stuff. Not saying you don't deserve to feel happy that you're a new dad, but maybe tone it down around or take it to your own home. I think it's also the comments. Sister probably thought that her parents would say, "He is so cute." Or, "We are so happy." Not, "You did it," as if it's an achievement. It is an achievement to get financially ready for a baby, but sister probably did that, so that comment probably seemed cruel to her. Celebrating the baby doesn't have to have such an air of OMG, you finally gave us a grand baby that the comments imply. Sister was preparing to be sad but not feel like she has been punched in the face. Cuz Op got to cross a milestone first. Op could have just avoided celebrating in that particular way and things might have been easier. Scrolled way too long for this take. This is the right answer. Exactly. Op and family are insensitive to the feelings of the sister. But at the same time, for the sister, people can be two things. She should be celebrating being an aunt despite feeling sad herself. Instead, she's kind of squandering her chance to be an aunt, which makes the whole thing extra sad for her. Hopefully she may soon realize that she can be both sad for herself and happy for her brother at the same time. She's been through a lot, and grieving takes its own time. I hope she has access to counseling, therapy, support groups. YTA for invalidating her feelings. I give you the YTA. And why would you move in with your parents? If you expect her to just get over it or deal with it, moving forward, YWBTA. But unintentionally bringing hurt back up for her does not make you TA. Give her some space for now. Have a conversation to her and listen to her when she's ready to talk to you. Infertility is an incredibly painful experience for people who want to be parents, and she might need you to be mindful that it might be hard for her to be happy for you while still wanting to be happy for you at the same time. Especially Hen, it led to her marriage falling apart. Nah. So I can't have kids. Have known for years. Have had GFS and the ex-wife make me go through the test. It happens. And it sucks when you want to be a parent so bad even from teenage years so you can help teach the things you learned. Have gone through this twice with both my bros' kids, so yay, not fun. She did nothing wrong. She left from the negative zone. She didn't badmouth, just cried and left. She felt her valid emotions and knew she didn't want to ruin the environment. Not an AH. You came home with the first grandchild and are super excited. You should be. Congratulations. So cheer and be pumped. Sometimes it's that recognition of the things you want that can't be had hurt the worst. It's not a negative to remove herself. She was overwhelmed. Now if you're asking why isn't she excited as all get out for you, then YWBTAH. So just recognize her experience, see she is happy for you in her own way, but it still stings. Especially if she tried for years. Why can't your mom help you at your place? It seems really insensitive that you and your newborn have to stay there. You know one of the people who lives there is dealing with a life implosion because they can't have a baby, so you just move in with yours? I'm torn between nah and a very mild YTA. It's baffling that none of you realized how having a new baby in the house your sister lives in would make her feel. Really? You actually thought staying with your parents after the birth, while you knew full well, your baby hungry, sister was there, was a good idea? You're cruel. NTA for celebrating, but whoever came up with you staying there after the birth while your sister is living there is. They should have came to stay at your house instead. NTA for celebrating your baby. Why couldn't your mom move into your space? Kind of unfair to your girlfriend emo to make her move into someone else's space when she's had this major medical event. Especially when that space is shared with someone who had their life turned upside down because of infertility. The only people that seems to benefit from the arrangement was your parents. Yeah, it seems like a really bad arrangement, skeptical smiley face. Nah. You did nothing wrong, of course you're thrilled about having a new baby. Also, congratulations. Your mom has a point though, it would have been better if you had done your gushy celebrating when she wasn't in the room. Your sister is going through some stuff. She's grieving, the loss of a life with kids she wanted so badly, the loss of her marriage. Grief is hard and this reaction is really common for people struggling with fertility issues. She also probably feels guilty and conflict. Ed at her own feelings because she probably does want to be happy for you. The best thing you can do is to be aware of her feelings, and validate them, and then be sensitive to her needs. She might need to distance herself from the situation for a bit, because she's finding it hard. Lots of people will want to say she should suck it up, but that's really insensitive. If you want to be there for her, tell her that and ask her what she needs from you, and respect what she says. When she is able to better manage her feelings, she will let you know. There's actually a really good episode of Bluey, a truly amazing kids show. I think the episode is called Onesies, that touches on this, and it's a great example of showing consideration and empathy for someone going through what your sister is experiencing now. Nah. You sister could have thought she was mentally prepared for you to bring home the baby, but actually seeing the joy and excitement, hearing, "You're a grandpa," probably was an absolute gut punch. I don't blame her for crying. And she removed herself from the room and didn't say anything. You're also allowed to be happy. No, you're allowed to be ecstatic. Don't feel bad for loving the moment. Both don't think ill of your sister either. While you're at an absolute high point in your life, sounds like she at the absolute lowest in her. Be kind, be understanding, but also enjoy your moment. NTA, but the words you and your father chose to use were pretty insensitive. Infertility is a very highly emotional and painful thing to go through. You did it, I promise she heard, your sister couldn't, but you did. We did it. You're a granddad. I bet she heard, sister couldn't make it happen but I did. Be kind, be gentle, apologize for the insensitive wording and reassure her that it wasn't meant to be hurtful and that, in your excitement, you didn't consider her struggles. UG her, take her to lunch. Sans baby. Invite her to be an active participant in your child's life. My aunt who was unable to have children was an exceptionally bright and wonderful light in my life. Almost like I was blessed with a bonus parent. I mean nah, but you and your dad could use a lesson in self-awareness. Those were some poorly chosen phrases and definitely would have been a bit hurtful for your sister, but there was no malice meant behind them, hence nah. Why does anyone think it is a good idea to take a newborn and mom anywhere but their own home? New mom needs to be in her own home to settle into being a new mom. Grandma can go over every day, or move in for a few weeks. Take your wife and child to your home. Welcome to Am I the Asshole? Please view our voting guide here. https://www.reddit.com/r/amathieishole/wiki/fact#wiki_what.2019s_with_these_acronyms.3f_mum.3f comma and remember to use only one judgment in your comment. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. Greater than 1 celebrated my newborn son in front of my sister. 2 She has been barren for a long time so might have been wrong. Help keep the sub engaging. Don't downvote assholes. Upvote interesting posts. Click here for our rules. https://www.reddit.com/r/amathieishole/about/rules and click here for our FAQ. https://www.reddit.com/r/amathieishole/wiki/fact. #, subreddit announcements. Follow the link above to learn more. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit. https://www.reddit.com/message/compose/question mark 2 =r/amathieishole if you have any questions or concerns. Contest mode is 1.5 hours long. End this post. NaH, obviously you have the right to celebrate your son, as does your dad. But your sister's feelings are also valid. Infertility sucks, and in her case also led to the breakdown of her marriage. Be good to each other. Initially, from just the title I thought for sure I would be saying that your sister is the asshole. But you kinda sprung that on her, unbeknownst to her out of nowhere. She's probably going through a lot of thoughts and emotions right now, and not trying to let how she's feeling get in the way of your happiness. But you essentially forced your happiness to get in the way of all the things she's processing. You're the asshole, but it's an understandable mistake that you made. It was the heat of the moment and you're understandably excited. Still, you should be thinking about how this is weighing on her all the same before doing things like surprise hugging her out of being overjoyed at the birth of your child. Nah. I was actually in a similar boat. I am the younger sister and I just gave birth to a baby girl, whereas my older sister has been trying to get pregnant but keeps having miscarriages. I don't think you are the but a little bit of compassion would go far. Your sister is going through a bunch of emotions about not being able to conceive and seeing you with the gift that she so desperately wanted. She may be happy for you, but she's being overcome by sad jealousy. It's hard not to be exy. Ted about being a new parent, but give your sister a little bit of a break. **Automod*******. Thanks for posting. This comment is a copy of your post, so readers can see the original text if your post is edited or removed. This comment is not accusing you of copying anything. Read this. https://www.reddit.com/r/wiki/fact#wiki_post_deletion before contacting the mod team. https://www.reddit.com/message/compose?2fr%2f_2 I am 28, and my long-term GF, 27, just had a beautiful boy and we couldn't be more ecstatic. The whole family is overjoyed except my sister. For context, my sister, F37, had been trying to conceive with her ex-husband for about 6 years and unfortunately they didn't have any results, which caused their divorce. This has of course devastated her as she's been really keen on having children for the past decade, give or take. After the divorce, they sold the house and she ended up moving back in with our parents since they have plenty of room. Back to 2 days ago, Hannah gives birth to our son and we'd agreed with my parents. We would stay over at theirs for a few weeks so my mom could help with the baby whenever we needed. Once we got home from the hospital, everyone was so happy we were showing everyone our son. Saw my dad and we just started hugging and jumping around the place while trying not to wake up the baby. My dad was like, "You did it," and I'd reply, "And you're a granddad," both smiling ear to ear, just being absolutely goofy. We then went over to look at the baby and in the process I hugged my sister who was standing there seemingly kind of spaced out. She immediately starts crying. I try to comfort her but the mood in the whole room has shifted and she just runs off up the stairs. Now we're left there standing. My mom gives me the eyes and says me and dad shouldn't have celebrated like that in front of her. I told her she should be able to deal with it. She knew we were coming. I went upstairs but she didn't want to talk. So AITA here? Peas. If anyone has advice for moving forward, that's also APRIC. IATED. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message, compose, =r, am I the asshole, if you have any questions or concerns. Nah. As someone who has struggled with fertility issues, I can understand how your sister feels. She probably thought she was okay. I've no doubt she was happy for you, but faced with the reality of the baby she broke. It's not that she's not happy for you, it's that she is heartbroken for herself. Her marriage has failed. She does not have the baby she so longed for. Please be gentle with her. Also, congratulations, you deserve the happiness you have. Why stay at your parents' place when you know your sister is in this position? I get your parents wanting to help. They could stay with you or come over during the day. The only is your mom. You have feelings too. NTA, but your father saying, "You did it," was a little tone deaf given your sister's struggles. SMH. Nah, your dad needs to work on his wording. That was insensitive to your sister and your GF, the person who did the majority of it. Nah. Grief is weird, and it makes sense that she'd grieve the life she wanted the first time she saw a family celebrating. Could you have been more sensitive? Sure, but that doesn't make you an for having a few moments of wanting to celebrate. Bra for being excited and celebrating at all, and you should. You should also give your sister some leeway and give her time to adjust. She wasn't being mean or trying to dampen your happiness. She is just trying to deal with her feelings. She is coming to terms with not being able to have a baby and losing her marriage. It will take time, but gentle with her. Your comment her to deal with it comes across dickish. Feelings are not black and white and are different for everyone. Just give her time, she's probably happy for you, it's just hard, I'm sure. NTA, but y'all should not be living together. Nah. Firstly, congratulations on the new baby boy. You guys have every right to celebrate and be happy. It's an incredibly joyous occasion and absolutely no one can take that from you. So you weren't at all wrong in smiling with your dad and just being as ecstatic as the both of you were. While your sister definitely could have handled it better, I do understand where she's coming from. I mean, she lost her entire marriage because of being unable to give birth, and it went on for 6 long years, man. She must have felt like she was punished for absolutely no fault of her own, and the life she wanted to live is being lived out by her own brother. So while it's not your fault for celebrating, I personally feel she had reason enough for her reaction. I state again that she definitely could have handled it better. Maybe try talking to her about it. I'm sure the two of you could work it out. You can't put your life on hold due to your sister. I am sad for her that she was unable to conceive and her marriage fell apart. She is in mourning for a life she wanted but didn't achieve. You just had your first child, and I am sure your wife appreciates having help around so that she can recover from giving birth. I think you do have to talk with your sister, and perhaps she needs to find someone to help her process her sadness, perhaps depression, with her life right now. You need to be understanding of her pain, but she also has to realize this is a time of joy for most families. You and your father are acting in a normal manner, being goofy, and proud to be parents and grandparent. Nah. The only is your mom. She invites you to stay knowing the fertility issues with your sister, then says you shouldn't be so excited. I am side-eyeing your mom. Your sister did nothing wrong either. She took her emotions to her room. Her feelings are valid. And your excitement is also valid. NTA. You're overjoyed to have a new child, of course you can celebrate. I get that your sister is bummed that she hasn't been able to conceive a child of her own, but she's now the aunt of an apparently healthy newborn nephew. There has to be a way that she can embrace her role in your kid's life. It is far, far more complex than this. She can be happy to be an aunt, and she can also be grieving the end of her marriage and infertility. I think that her being 37, newly divorced, and being back where she started is adding to huge feelings. I really feel for this poor woman. Sure is a bummer that you can't have a baby and your marriage fell apart, but I can and did have a baby, so just be happy that you get to be an aunt and watch me have everything you wished for. What a strange and thoughtless take. FR, I imagine the sister and infertile people in general don't want compensation babies. Bummed out, doesn't even scratch the surface of what OP's sister is feeling. I've been actively distraught over my sister getting pregnant. Even worse when my ex and I broke up and I had to move back in with my mom and sister. We're a month away from her giving birth and I can't afford to go anywhere else. I cry every day knowing that I'm going to be forced to be around a baby that isn't mine. Infertility is terribly hard, especially when it causes your whole life to fall apart. OP's sister is and bummed out, she's grieving. I had 2 miscarriages. One was twins. I then gave birth to my stillborn baby while my sister-in-law was 2 months pregnant, husband's brother and his wife, when this happened. I then miscarried a month before she gave birth. My nephew was born and my sister-in-law said she knew I would be upset but that she was here for me. I celebrated that baby with all I had in me. It's not my sister-in-law's or brother-in-law's fault that my babies had passed. It wasn't their fault that when we get pregnant Chloe together that they ended up with a baby and I didn't. It wasn't the baby's fault. It was just one of those things that happens. That little baby gave me hope and comfort that I wouldn't have had if he hadn't been born, and as it was, my healthy little girl was born the year after, and I now have 5 living babies. I had the same situation with a friend of mine who had a stillborn son when I was pregnant with my 3rd, and I said the same to her, and my sil said to me. She was a doting auntie for years and had 11 miscarriages afterwards before getting her little girl. And she said having my little ones around actually helped her and begged me to bring them round as often as I could. I know it'll be tough for your sister, but you still need to celebrate your baby and your life, and if she has one of her own, you will celebrate with her, but if she doesn't, she will always have your little one to dote on. So no, you're not the but I would take your sister aside and just say that you understand. And that it's so hard for her, but you're here for her and that she will be the best auntie when she's ready to be. NTA. Your mom invited you over. What the heck was she expecting? She's the real here, inviting you and expecting you not to celebrate while also housing someone who is clearly mourning the loss of their marriage and all the what-ifs. You're allowed to be happy, and your sister is allowed to mourn. NTA for being excited that you have a new baby, and your parents are allowed to be overjoyed as grandparents. But YTA for agreeing to go to your parents' house when the baby was born instead of having the grandparents stay with you. If I knew my sister was struggling with fertility and it led to a failed marriage and caused years of pain, then the last place I would ever want to bring my new baby is to their house for an extended stay. You and your family can be excited for your new baby while sparing her the heartache of shoving in her face something she'll never have. NTA, your sister is a grown adult who can communicate her emotions and has free will to come and go. She was also made aware of y'all coming to stay. I'm aware this is a sensitive topic and can upset people, however, if she knew this topic would upset her, she should have stayed somewhere else during your stay, or your parents should have came and stayed with you to help out because the baby would upset your sister. I'm all for celebrating. It's your baby's birth. If your sister thought she would be okay and ended up not, it does happen, she should have said that and removed herself without making a scene. None of this is your fault. She did remove herself without making a scene. Sometimes you can't help tears. She didn't shout or tell anyone they'd done anything wrong, she just left. The sister didn't do anything wrong. Saying NTA meant that the sister was an asshole for having feelings. Just saying. It's not about the sister having feelings, it's about the sister not communicating her feelings and then turning up into the bad guy. When, where, and how did the sister turn up into a bad guy? NTA, as your intention was not to hurt your sister. But going forward, I would definitely make an effort to be more sensitive. She's grieving the child she was not able to conceive, as well as the loss of her marriage, and the loss of being the one to give her family the first grandchild. It must be extremely painful to see you effortlessly experiencing something she really struggled and ultimately was not able to achieve. In all likelihood, she is happy for you too, she's just struggling under big, conflicting feelings. Personally, I think the best route forward is a very honest conversation with her. Be explicit and direct, and apologize for not considering how your excitement might make her feel. You are allowed to be overjoyed at the birth of your child, but you clearly regret that your happiness hurt her. Tell her that. I would also tell her you really want her to be a part of your child's life, and ask there's anything you can do to make this easier for her. She's living with your parents, so theoretically the baby is going to be around a lot. Being proactive about her boundaries and what is and is not painful is a good idea. Get off on the right foot. She may request things that you aren't comfortable with, and you can tell her what is and isn't workable for your family, but at least then you're having an open dialogue with her versus one of you feeling hurt or dismissed. Edit. Fixed a typo. They should go home and take mom with. She was the inconsiderate one here, IMHO. There's no way this is the only option for living arrangements. You're NTA, but whoever made the decision to have you and your new family stay with your parents, knowing your sister lives there, definitely is. Who hates her that much? Honestly, if I'm you, I would go back home and let mom help you out there. AITA. Infertility sucks, but you can't be expected to stop living. I feel bad for your sister. A conversation with her saying you're sorry it couldn't have happened for her too might be a nice gesture. Nah. You're allowed to be happy. She's allowed to be sad. Just let her be. Nah, except for your mom. She literally invited you to stay and then got mad you were excited. Nah, this isn't really an AITA post, it's more of a relationships post. NTA, but your parents sure are for having you guys bring a newborn to their house for the first few weeks while your sister is also living there. FFS, she can't even leave and get a break from it. Why did any of you agree to that instead of them staying at your place? Nobody's the asshole here. She's allowed to feel what she feels and you're allowed to be happy over your child's birth. Neither of you are wrong. This is just one of those things that no matter what is going to be painful. All you can do is be happy and supportive as you feel you can be. NTA. I do get it. She's partnerless and the biological clock is ticking. I would have thought that in 6 years they would have undergone tests to try and establish a reason. It's not that she's not happy for you but that she is aware of what she perceives, her inability to have a child. There's not much you can do but to try and not take it personally. When you try month after month to get pregnant, and every month, fail, it really does drag you down into a pit. She was just overwhelmed with emotion and couldn't or didn't control it. Just be the best parent you can be to your little one, celebrate how you want and be happy. Unfortunately, it's just nature and you don't have to dampen your spirits and enthusiasm tainting your experience as a new dad just because of her situation. Cax. Why did you have to stay temporarily with your parents? Couldn't your mom come to your place? Sounds like a strange arrangement and would be especially stressful for your sister. NTA. You were innocently celebrating. Your comment back to your mom didn't show much compassion though. NTA. You are allowed and should celebrate your son being born. You shouldn't have to tiptoe around people just because of their own problems. People need to learn to deal with things like that. You're okay? That a cold and heartless take. It's 100% okay you're happy and it's as okay she is having a rough time. Be open, honest and support her in it's okay to be upset. That's the only way she gets a nephew and your nephew gets an aunt. NTA, but I absolutely know how your sister feels. My ex and I tried for years before our divorce, and his sister would get pregnant every time a man sneezed on her. I was healthy, and she was an addict who didn't even know who all of the fathers were and had lost custody after her newborn tested positive for drugs. It hurt so bad that every time she had another baby, it helped when people would acknowledge the pain and emptiness I felt. It was also nice getting to bond with my bonus buddies. I would suggest being patient and understanding with your sister. She might not end up giving birth to a child, but let her know that she can still be an amazing auntie. As things turned out, I ended up having a baby in my 30s. Info. Whose idea was it to stay at your parents' for weeks? It's unusual that anyone assisting you wouldn't do so at your place. Do you not have room? Nah. I understand your words were spontaneous, but I don't think they could have been worse for your sister to hear. I understand she got upset. BTW, why are you staying at your parents'? As a new mom, nothing could have made me stay outside my own home. Is your wife really okay with it? Nah. Just be wary that your sister is probably happy for you but sad for herself and let her feel those mixed emotions in her own time. Maybe give her a special role in the baby's life when she feels ready to engage, if she wants to. Don't force her, always take her lead but make it clear she is welcome. YTA. Time and place. Not the time and place for excitedly jumping congratulations. Congratulations on doing what your sister failed to do, and has wrecked her life. Yeah, she's right there. Oops. Deleted. She literally lives in the house they chose to bring their baby to. It would have been just as easy, if not easier, for them to take their kid to their own house and let the parents come fawn all over the baby there instead of basically rubbing it in the sister's face. Nah. You and your father did a perfectly natural celebration. You were not trying to hurt your sister, and you did not enact the "it's a boy" scene from Tommy. That said, your sister is sensitive on the subject, and I don't blame her for retreating. NTA. This is definitely something to celebrate and be happy about. Your sister isn't an either. It's hard dealing with wanting a baby and having problems conceiving. However, no one should be giving you the stink eye for it. Your mom was in the wrong. She's trying to keep the peace by controlling other people's celebrations and emotions. That's not feasible, nor should it be necessary. You are all adults and should know how to deal with disappointments in life. NTA, and to be clear, the asshole here is your mother. Your sister's reaction, while upsetting, is kind of understandable. This must have been painful for her to watch. But from the sound of it, she tried to remove herself from the conversation, not actively ruin your celebration. If she starts being passive-aggressive and bitter, though, know that is on her. It sucks for your sister, but this is still a major joyful moment for you, and one you absolutely deserve to celebrate and have celebrated. ITHU. While your mother feeling bad for her daughter is understandable, telling you guys not to celebrate and quell your feelings of joy is totally out of line. That being said, both you and your sister staying with your parents at the same time in this scenario may not be the best for either of you. It sucks, but your situations are so clashingly opposite. You celebrating your new birth as she's grieving the end of her long-term marriage because of the thing you're celebrating? It feels like a breeding ground for resentment. Are your GF's parents an option? Do you live close enough that your mother could move in with you instead? Sister moving may also be an option if neither of these are feasible, but it feels a bit unfair to try to enforce that since she was here first and actively lives there right now. NTA, but understand where your sister is coming from also. I'm sure she's happy for you, but at the same time, her not having a baby when they tried can be mentally frustrating for her also. You are not the AH. I can only judge your sister depending on how much and how long she knew about this plan, but most likely not the AH. Your mom, on the other hand, is the biggest AH. She offered this arrangement or at least agreed to it without considering your sister. She expects you not to celebrate your child and scolds you when you have a normal reaction. The first thing you need to do is talk with your girlfriend and see how she feels about all this, and decide whether she wants to stay with your family or move to your place. After, comfort your sister when she has calmed down, and remind her you are there for her, and she can rely on you. She is clearly not in a good mental space and needs help. Suggest therapy. Finally, talk to your parents and ask if they checked with your sister, how they brought this to her, and what was the conversation between them. You and your girlfriend are in a challenging situation, but it is not your fault. Sorry you have to deal with this ad of enjoying your time with your newborn. Good luck, op, and congrats on the baby. But it's easy to understand why your sister is upset. Imagine working so hard for something just to be passed up by someone who didn't even have to try. Fuck your sister. You are not the asshole here, but neither is your sister. As another female that cannot conceive due to chemo treatment for breast cancer when I was 31, that shit fucking hurts. I have friends and their kids that I just cannot spend a lot of time with anymore because they are always talking about parenthood and it breaks my heart. I understand that they are not in the wrong and are just talking about what consumes their life and their hormones tell them to focus on, but I have to do what is best for me too, and often that means not listening when people don't get how much it hurts or how they come across to me. Nah. Sheesh, her husband divorced her because she couldn't have a child? How awful. You're allowed to be happy though, and she's allowed to be sad and grieve. Maybe you and your dad should have used a different wording to express your joy, but you're human. Although I don't know why you stayed over at your parents' house when it could have been the other way around, so at least your sister didn't have to be stuck seeing everybody's happiness. I hope your sister heals and finds someone new who actually loves her. Nah. Of course you would want to celebrate. Congratulations, party popper. Sister knew you were coming. If she's wasn't able to deal, she should have made arrangements to stay somewhere else ahead of time. I don't mean to sound insensitive, but it's a fact of life. New babies will always come around. I hope she's able to have many in the future. Hopefully she will come around after a bit of time. Just give her space. Nothing can heal that grief but time. Never let anyone steal your joy up. You don't have to hide your emotions because someone else has theirs. You just can't expect them to feel yours, and the one with the pain isn't the actual center of the universe, even though they believe they are. Now, if she was the only one in the room with you, you maybe should have brought it down just a bit, but you weren't alone with her. Your mom is absolutely wrong. Oh, and she should be able to deal with it, is exactly one of the things where you are deciding what she should feel. Cut it out. Nevertheless, NTA. NTA. This is the first child, it's expected for people to be excited and happy. Your sister is also NTA. It's fully understandable she's in a sensitive state right now. You wanted advice on moving forward, so I'd say acknowledge her grief, and yes, it's a form of grief. She's grieving the loss of her dreams and marriage. Let her know that you'll give her support and that you all love her and are there for her, and be understanding when she has emotional periods. NTA. You should never feel you're the for feeling happy and proud when it comes to your children. Going forward, maybe you could give your sister space for a few days for her to work through her own feelings and then reapproach her, and rather than discuss your happy actions, just tell her you love her and you know this is hard for her and give her support. Nah. Meaning you should be allowed to celebrate becoming a parent and your sister needs to be allowed to feel sadness. I get it, it can really hurt knowing that someone else got what you wanted, however she needs some sort of help to move past it, and nobody should shame either you nor your sister. She's still processing a mountain of grief. As hard as that is for her, she should not let that overshadow the birth of your son. It's going to be a rocky start to the newly extended family, but I hope she's in counseling or grief therapy to help her process her feelings. And to you, congratulations on your new baby. NTA. You just had a baby FFS and your mom is telling you not to celebrate? That's messed up. I understand your sister is going through a hard time. And it's okay that she started crying and ran upstairs, but that doesn't mean you have to stop celebrating, or change your behavior in any way. This is her issue to deal with. Give her some time to adjust and maybe she'll come around.